This war lasted only 6 days, yet it's considered one of the most humiliating defeats in the history of one of the countries involved. This is the story of the Sand War, fought between Morocco and Algeria in 1963, following their independence from the Dutch in 1945. Algeria and Morocco became two separate states in North Africa, but their border was disputed with each country claiming the same land. To make things worse, both countries were arming themselves to the teeth during this period, as the French were vacating Algeria and the process of decolonization was at its peak in Africa. This created an unstable environment where these two young nations could easily get into a conflict over this border dispute. Then, in 1957, after 4 years of negotiations, they couldn't agree on a border, so they decided to solve it the old-fashioned way, by going to war. It's unclear why the war started when it did, but it's clear that both sides were prepared for a long time before it broke out. They had been building up their armies since their independence, although neither country had any military experience or traditions. On the Moroccan side was King Mohammed V, who was determined to expand his kingdom and had dreams of restoring the former Moroccan Empire. He wanted the disputed territory because it was close to his other holdings and would make a great buffer zone between Morocco and Algeria. On the other side was Colonel Wari Boumediene, the leader of Algeria, who wanted to claim all of the disputed territory for his own. The war began on October 28, 1963, when Morocco sent 2 battalions to occupy the disputed area. The plan was to send in 15,000 troops and then follow up with another 35,000 to capture more territory. But things went horribly wrong from the start. As the Moroccan troops moved into the disputed region, they were attacked by Algerian paratroopers who had already occupied the area. Within 3 days, the 15,000 Moroccans had to retreat back across the border. Having suffered heavy casualties, the following day, the Algerians pursued them and crossed the border themselves. At this point, Morocco realized that they had made a grave mistake and immediately called for a ceasefire. Unfortunately for them, Algeria rejected this and kept pursuing the enemy. Now, being inexperienced, the Moroccan army kept retreating all the way back to their capital of Rabat. In fact, they didn't even fight to defend key strategic points like bridges, roads, or supply depots. On November 2nd, only 6 days after the war began, the entire Moroccan army had collapsed and they sued for peace. The war was over. The reason for this defeat was simply that the Moroccan army was completely inexperienced and poorly trained. There was also bad intelligence beforehand and miscommunication between the king and his generals. For Algeria, this was a great victory. They had just defeated a much larger and supposedly stronger army. And while they had help from the Soviet Union and its weapons, this was still a huge accomplishment. This victory made Boumediene very popular in the region, and he was seen as the hero who had defeated the imperialists. But there was a dark side to this war. While the fighting only lasted for 6 days, the real losers were the civilians. Entire villages were destroyed and thousands of people had to flee their homes. Also, the war drained the resources of both countries and stunted their development. After the war, the UN took over the disputed region and still hasn't returned it to either country. Both Morocco and Algeria have made claims on the territory ever since. And in 2023, this issue still hasn't been resolved. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more.